Hello, my name is Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com. Now, normally I would start one of these videos off with a stupid little song or a crap joke or something, but given the week that we've just had, it doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel appropriate to do so. So instead, I'm going to take this opportunity to toast the late, great Howard Finkel, who tragically left us this week. The collective voice of our childhoods and a hell of a guy. He will be truly, truly missed. Let's take a look at the headlines. Sad news as WWE have made more cuts to their roster. There has been a major change to the Money in the Bank matches at this year's pay-per-view. And we'll talk about some changes coming to WWE's upcoming TV schedule. So starting things off with, unfortunately, more sad news as 4 WWE superstars, this time from the NXT brand, have been released by the company. First off, Taynara Conti has been released by WWE. This was initially reported by Mike Johnson of PW Insider. Sean Ross Sapp from Fightful tweeting later on that Conti's release came earlier in the week but hasn't been revealed until today. So if you're unaware of who Conti is or need a bit of a recap, she signed with WWE in October 2016. She took part in both the 2017 and 2018 Mae Young Classics. It was actually reported earlier this year in February that she had left the company amid some sort of dispute, but then she was back wrestling very shortly afterwards. She's been sparingly used on TV, on NXT, but she has been featured previously, so very sad to see her go indeed. Next up, Cesar Bononi, who was signed to WWE in October of 2015. He was almost exclusively used on live events. In fact, I believe the last time he wrestled on WWE TV was all the way back in 2018, but he was used very frequently on the NXT live events. His profile has been moved from WWE.com, not moved to the alumni section, as has been the case with Conti. She's been moved over to the alumni section, but Bononi not getting the same treatment. Next up, courtesy of PW Insider, Mars Wang, a name that you might not be too familiar with. He did sign for WWE back in 2018, but has largely once again been working live events rather than on TV. And finally, Tino Sabatelli, a name that you're probably familiar with. This was initially reported by Fightful. He signed all the way back in 2014 with the company. He made his NXT TV debut back in 2016. So as I say, he's been around for a long time. He teamed with Riddick Moss in the first round of the 2016 Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, but he's also popped up on NXT a few times following that. So really, really sad news. 4 more being released. As I say, it's believed that these were earlier this week, but they've just been revealed now. Unfortunately, numerous places, including the Observer, reporting that more NXT releases are said to be coming. So expect more names, unfortunately, to pop up over the next few days. We don't know when those are going to happen, and I would suggest that it's likely, given that these have only just popped up now, these names, that some may have already taken place, some releases may have already happened, and we just haven't learned the names yet. It's believed that it's largely going to be superstars working primarily live events, but again, time will tell. It's been reported by the Observer that it's unlikely that we'll see more from the main roster, from Raw and SmackDown, which is a bit of a surprise to some people considering how Raw heavy that initial list of reported superstars was. But do expect to see, unfortunately, more NXT superstars be released in the coming days. I'm going to go through the full list of wrestlers, producers, backstage personnel, all the people that we know have been released by WWE so far. It's a pretty lengthy list, so I'm going to breeze through it. We'll start off with the confirmed NXT names, in case you're unfamiliar with those. So those new additions, unfortunately, Tino Sabatelli, Cesar Bononi, Mars Wang, Taynara Conti, Dan Mather, MJ Jenkins, Deonna Purrazzo, Alexander Jaksic from NXT. From the main roster, Rusev, No Way Jose, Mike Kanellis, Maria Kanellis. Interesting here, they were actually under contract until 2024. They weren't keen on re-signing with WWE initially, but they ended up signing a 5-year deal just last year. So they were expected to be with the company to have that financial security until 2024. The same can be said for Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. Carl Anderson has heavily hinted that he's on his way back to New Japan, so that's exciting to see. It's exciting to see a lot of these superstars already, not necessarily teasing new promotions that they might be working with, but being very, very optimistic about their career possibilities moving forward. There's a whole lot of talent on this list. You don't need me to tell you that. So that's reassuring to see. Primo, Epico, Rowan, Sarah Logan, as I say, Gallows and Anderson, EC3, Drake Maverick, Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder, Heath Slater, who literally has the best t-shirt I've ever seen. Check it out. Instead of I got kids, I got fired. It's fantastic. Go and buy it. Support these wrestlers. Eric Young and Leo Rush, all from the main roster. Producers, these are primarily furloughed, not released, but there is one release here that we know is a proper release rather than a furloughing, and that is Kurt Angle, of course. The other producers, Billy Kidman, Mike Rotunda, Pat Buck, Fit Finlay, Sean Davari, Scott Armstrong, Sarah Stock, Shane Helms, Lance Storm. Coaches now, Serena Deeb, Chris Guy, Kendo Kashin. Announcers, Jerry Soto, who's been furloughed again, but released, Aiden English, very sad to see. Referees, a man who has been with the company for over 30 years. Can't believe, when this name popped up, just couldn't believe it. Mike Chioda. Creative, we have confirmation that Andrea Listenberger, a name that you might not be familiar with once again, but she signed to WWE late last year, and she was the lead writer on the Otis and Mandy storyline, a storyline that I think everybody has really, really enjoyed. Just great soap opera wrestling nonsense, but brilliant in the best possible way. And finally, other on-air talent and personnel. Josiah Williams, tremendously talented, without a doubt going to go far. And John Quasto, who did some WWE sort of backstage correspondence stuff, did a few pre-show bits. I remember him doing something for Starrcade, I think it was last year. Not been with the company for too long, being trained for a role within NXT and then possibly the main roster, I believe. So it's a very lengthy list there. Really gutting to have to read all of those names out. So wishing everybody that we've just talked about the very best in their future endeavours. It sounds like such a WWE thing to say, that, doesn't it? Genuinely, all the best. So much talent there. Moving on. Next up, there's been a major change to this year's Money in the Bank matches at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Now, if you were watching SmackDown, then you'll know all about this already. If you weren't, strap yourselves in. Couldn't quite believe my ears when Michael Cole and Corey Graves started talking about this. We've got a few more details now, so I'm just going to read the official WWE.com synopsis on those matches at the upcoming Money in the Bank pay-per-view. This year's WWE Money in the Bank men's and women's match participants will have an even more unique challenge ahead of them than usual. The match begins on the ground floor of WWE headquarters, but the briefcases containing contracts for a championship match anytime, any place will be hanging all the way up on the roof of the corporate tower. Catch the historic groundbreaking matches when WWE Money in the Bank streams live on the award-winning WWE Network on Sunday, May the 10th. And yeah, I'll just recap that in case you thought you were dreaming. All of the wrestlers are going to start on the ground floor of WWE HQ. It's a race to the top where there'll be a ladder. You climb the ladder, you get the briefcase, and you become either Mr. or Miss Money in the Bank. And that's a match that is happening on pay-per-view. It's been reported earlier today that some of this, the filming, may have already taken place. PW Insider saying something was filmed on the roof of WWE towers, or they were maybe setting up something there. Something was going on, some production was happening at WWE HQ today. So some of this has already been pre-recorded, I guess, in case circumstances change. Obviously, everything is so fluid at the moment. We don't know where we're going to be next week, let alone May the 10th, live on the WWE Network, sort of live on the who knows. But yeah, this is I'm going to try and keep an open mind on this because I'm thinking back to WrestleMania and two matches that obviously really stood out were the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse match. So different can work. So this sounds ludicrous. It is ludicrous, but who knows? I guess they've got to change things up because we've just had a ladder match in the performance. In fact, we've had two ladder matches in the Performance Center. The SmackDown Tag Titles at WrestleMania, and then one on NXT. Was it last week? Yeah. And so I guess they want to make this a little bit different. It's certainly going to be different. The qualifying matches are happening over the next few weeks, but this is going to be something else. I mean, thanks WWE, because this is list content for years. Next up, some major changes are being made to WWE's upcoming TV schedule. Now, it's been reported last week that WWE would go back to live because their TV deals with various networks means that they've got to produce live content, otherwise they're at risk of receiving less money as part of those deals. However, those plans have now changed. This comes courtesy of Ryan Satin of Pro Wrestling Sheet, saying that essentially they're going to be peppering in taped shows alongside the live shows. So I'll go down a bit of the list. There's a big list of dates here where they'll be filming. I'll read some of them out just so you can get a quick idea. I won't do the whole thing because it'll get boring essentially. So Raw, airing live on Monday. SmackDown, you may have just seen mere hours ago, that aired live also. NXT, next week's NXT, will air live as scheduled. Next Friday SmackDown, also live. And then on Saturday, April 25th, 2 episodes of SmackDown will be taped. The following Friday SmackDown, and then the week after that. So 2 episodes at a time. And then on Monday, 2 episodes of Raw, one for that night. And then the following week's Raw. Wednesday, April 29th, 2 episodes of NXT, one for that night, one for the following week, and so on. And it gets a bit convoluted as it goes down. Sometimes they're taping 1 episode, sometimes they're going live, sometimes they're doing 2 in one day. You can check out the full list at cultaholic.com. That's up there. And it's a weird decision. It's going back on the original plan, which was to tape up to 5 weeks of TV, to take them all the way to and a little bit past Money in the Bank. So an interesting decision being made there, one that I can only assume once again comes down to finances. But we'll keep you up to date if anything changes, because it probably will.